Good evening to everyone. Let me welcome you to the August 22nd, 2019 meeting of the Prince George's County Board of Education. Before we begin, I would like to ask everyone to turn off your wireless communication devices as they may interfere with the microphones and taping of our meeting. We'll begin first with our board prayer, and I'd ask Mr. Montero to lead us in it.
Please stand. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance, steer us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Amen.
We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Ellis, would you please call the roll of the board?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Ms. Ahmed, here. Ms. Boozer-Strother. Mr. Burrows.
Here.
Ms. Eubanks.
Here.
Mr. Montero.
Here.
Mr. Murray.
Here.
Mr. Omalola.
Here.
Ms. Queen.
Present.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Mr. Valentine.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Present.
Mrs. Williams.
Present.
Dr. Thornton.
Here. Colleagues, may I have your a motion to adopt the minutes of, to adopt the agenda for our meeting tonight? It's been properly moved and seconded that the agenda before you for our meeting be adopted. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. If you would now please turn your attention to the minutes of June 20th, 27th, and our August 8th CIP meeting, and the motion is in order.
So moved.
It's been properly moved and seconded that the board minutes of the June 20th, 27th, and August 8th CIP special board meeting be approved. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. We will now turn to a news break, summer vacation, a class act. Dr. Golson, I'll let you introduce that.
Good evening. Now we will have a news break.
We don't have one.
Oh, we don't?
Okay. That's,
Yeah, no, we do.
That's right there.
It's right there.
it's coming?
You just introduced it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're coming. You're coming.
What a welcome it was to Prince George's County Public Schools. One by one, cheers greeted the 950 new teachers arriving for their first day of work, August 19th. At PEEP, the Professional Educators Induction Program, the new recruits were each given laptops, their digital umbilicals for the school year ahead, training sessions on best practices in classroom management, and very personal words of welcome from Monica Golson, CEO, but first and foremost, a teacher at heart.
My love for kids happened at the conclusion of the very first week of school at Suitland High School. I sat in the same seats, not in this auditorium, but in the same seat that you're in now during our teacher induction week. And I got to meet new teachers. I learned about the curriculum I was expected to teach, what my classrooms would look like, how I'll be evaluated, and by the conclusion of that first week, I was overwhelmed. Trust me, you will be too. But when I got to my home, Suitland High School, I met a cadre of teachers who told me everything was possible and that I would be in front of kids where I could make their dreams come true.
And while there was some natural bewilderment as the teachers adapted to their new surroundings, there was also an air of contentment around those who'd been personally recruited and those returning to their roots.
I'm going to be teaching visual arts here in Prince George's County. The reason why I came here is because I grew up in Prince George's County. I went to Duval Senior High School, I went to Bowie State University. So I'm a Prince George's native. And to be able to come back home, I've come like full circle.
My children are Prince George's County raised. My oldest graduated from Central, and my youngest is at Central. So I'm a teacher at Central.
I got a call, random call from a principal from Greenbelt Middle School, Daria Valentine, I believe her name, and just the conversation. And then so it was over the phone, and I was like, let me just go in person and meet. And so I got to the campus, and just her vision, her enthusiasm, just what she was trying to do. And I was just like, I felt connected to that. So I was like, I want to be a part of that.
And while the teachers were prepping for the new school year, students and their families were every bit as busy. Witness the over 9,000 who came to the county's 9th annual back-to-school block party at Landover's Sports and Learning Complex. Thanks to dozens of corporate sponsors, each child got a backpack full of school supplies, maybe a new identity, a ninja warrior, anybody? And if they were lucky, a hug from the CEO herself. And what would a block party be without plenty of fun and games? Some of which look very much like the games designed by students attending this summer's Title I STEM camp. Yes, lights twinkled and coded cheers erupted as rising 5th, 7th, and 9th graders built arcade-style games from scratch.
This is the first summer that the Title I's had this awesome summer camp. They wanted to create a summer camp that other students would have to pay for this opportunity to have. So they decided to integrate gaming and computers with this really novel game camp called Architects. It's been really exciting to see how interested they are in gaming and computer programming. Most students have never had this experience before, so having no experience in coding, this is now giving them new career paths.
Add to the camp aspiring businessmen and women.
So this is my company, My Yellow's Closet, and we sell affordable vintage clothing, accessories, and shoes. Our motto is find it, love it, buy it.
And would-be aerospace engineers running with open umbrellas to simulate drag. And it wasn't hard to see that next year's camp will have a very long waiting list indeed.
Well, if you're thinking at first that it's not going to be good or you're not going to learn anything, well, you need to think again because you're going to learn a lot at this camp. You might not think at first, but you're going to learn a lot. It's going to be fun, interesting, and meet new friends.
So, after a purposeful summer of class acts, the stage is set for that first day of school. An annual rite of passage that never fails to thrill or to put a few butterflies in the stomach.
I get anxious for stuff, so yeah, I'll definitely be a little nervous. But I think it's kind of like anything, kind of like a game or something. Once I get started and actually get moving and talking to the kids, I'll be good. But I don't know how much sleep I'll get that first night for sure.
Here's to a good night's sleep for Tim, and to the realization of all the sweet dreams of every student in Prince George's County. This is Dave Zarin reporting.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Golson and your staff for putting that together for us. I'd like to now recognize our student board member for a point of personal privilege, Mr. Joshua Omalala.
Good evening, board colleagues and everyone. First and foremost, I would like to thank God for this opportunity to serve as a student member of the board because God is good and all the time.
God is good.
Yes, God is good. When I ran for student member of the board, listening to the students from Flowers High School to Potomac High School, hearing the voices of students from William Wirt to Kenmore Middle School, all the discussions had something that was a common thread and was improvement. Improvement in the types of authors we read to reflect our demographics, improvement in the support for our mental health, improvement in our school buildings to offer a safe, clean, and memorable environment. In my meetings, we discussed the lack of school counselors, feminine products, and even bathroom stalls. The concerns of my peers will ground my advocacy this year as student member of the board. I would like to remind the Board of Education about our mission, to provide a great education that empowers all students and contributes to a thriving community. All that we do isn't to attain political gain or higher ground but to empower our students for the future. I will also remind the board of my length, which is 1 year. So I will remind everyone, everything I do is to represent the students and to advocate for them. So I apologize in advance if I step on your toes. And I would also like to thank Dr. Golson, Dr. Thornton, Dr. Burrows, and the rest of my board colleagues for the warm welcome.
Dr. Burrows.
Let's get to work.
Honorary doctorates.
Thank you. Thank you, my colleague, and again, welcome. I think, Dr. Golson, everywhere we go in the state, we see the presence of our students providing leadership. And I guess they do it so often that sometimes we take it for granted. So we're very proud of you. And I would like now to issue a short report from the chair. And please join me in honoring the memory of the lives of some of our colleagues who are no longer with us. Isaiah Washington, a student at Annapolis Road Academy, Willie Washington, Technology Project Manager, Information Technology, and Geraldine Lewis, former Special Education Data Management Department employee, Hector Campus, former school counselor, International Student Guidance Office, Cynthia Bland Felton, occupational therapist, the Francis View Early Childhood Center, Thomas Samuel Port, father of Tyrell Port, Web Services Office of Communications, and Ralph Peters, professional counselor with the Northwestern High School. Please join me in a moment of silence for members of our family. Thank you very much. I'd like to remind the viewing community and our colleagues of upcoming meetings of the board, but before doing so, Dr. Golson, thank you and the board staff and board colleagues for the excellent back-to-school gathering that was held at the Wayne Curry Center. I wasn't here, couldn't be here, but I saw it on Facebook, social media, and everywhere. So just thank you all, for all of you all who made that possible. It was just an impressive event. What a way to open our school year, signal to our children how much we love them and the families. And I want to thank all of the business leaders and elected officials, and everybody's having back-to-school affairs, right, and giving out things. So that's good. Everybody keep it going. September 3rd, as I'm sure Dr. Golson will say, is the first day for our students of the 2019-2020 school year. And as I said in my comments, greeting the new teachers, we're just going to have a great year. It's going to be an empowerment year. It's going to be a year where we're going to work together as colleagues on behalf of our students. And the narrative is going to be very positive and encouraging. And so it's just an exciting beginning of our school year. And so board colleagues, let's do our best to make a positive contribution to that as a board. I look forward to working with you this year. As an empowered collegial board, we'll have to work through things together, but we're going to do it in a very impressive and collegial way. So thank you for that. Our second meeting of the board will be on September 5th here at the Sasscer building, and we'll also have a very important CIP hearing on September 12th. So to the public, if you'll schedule those and look for those meetings. We always are excited about the public coming to speak to us, and so if you're interested in speaking to the Board of Education, please sign up on Quick Links and follow the public participation rules and regulations regarding your participation. You may call 301-952-6115 in order to sign up to speak before the Board of Education. Before I turn this over to Dr. Golson for her comments, I do want to say, as you know, I have the privilege of serving on the state Kerwin Commission work group that's writing the formula to distribute educational funds. We had a meeting all day today, and I know there's a lot of conversation in the community now, in the public, about the Kerwin Commission and the funding of it. I just want to let you know that we are all still committed to fully funding Kerwin and the excellent recommendations that have come from Kerwin. It was clear to me today from Dr. Kerwin, who made a very powerful statement about the Commission's work. I want to encourage the community to not be stampeded about any alleged incapacity to fund these recommendations that are so important to our children. and we'll go forward. I'll leave it at that. But stay engaged, stay committed to the necessary funding. We could not have funded the things that we funded without the Kerwin money that came to us this year. So stay focused, stay engaged, and we'll call you if we need you. With that, I'd like to now recognize Dr. Golson for her report.
Sorry. Thank
It's
you.
okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome to the official opening of school as we welcome all of our staff members back from summer break. I enjoyed the opportunity to welcome new teachers to the Prince George's County Public School family on Monday as they participated in professional development opportunities in preparation for the 2019-2020 school year. I also had the opportunity today to do real quick visits to Andrew Jackson Academy, Princeton Elementary School, and John Frank Dent Elementary School. All three schools are schools that have new principals, and staff were excited to be back today. I want to give an extra special hello to a teacher that I met today, Miss Livingston at J. Frank Dent, who started work last week. Her classroom is already finished, but she came in last week to prepare her classroom so that she could help teachers when they came today. And I just wanted to highlight her because there's so many other teachers who came in last week and didn't have to come in, but they wanted to do that so that they could help their colleagues. So it is one of those things that continues to make me Prince George's County Public School proud. I am also excited about the school year and all that we have to offer. We'll continue to make Prince George's County Public Schools a place where children matter. And I remain committed to keeping families informed, expanding opportunities for input and partnership, and collaborating with our Board of Education members, labor partners, community leaders, and other stakeholders. As stated earlier, thank you for everyone that attended our Back to School block party, our 9th annual block party that was held last Saturday. An extra special thank you to all of the board members who came and stayed on Saturday, as well as a thank you to the State Comptroller, Peter Francho, County Executive, Angela Also Brooks, County Council Member Mel Franklin, and all the parents who stood in line in the heat to make sure that their child was able to pick a backpack of their choice. I want to also thank Barbara Holt-Streeter, who is here tonight, who helps to plan that event. So thank you for all you do behind the scenes. We are now 11 days away from the first day of school, but who's counting? We have worked through the summer and the remaining days to ensure we have an amazing 2019-2020 school year. Human Resources is working daily to fill classroom vacancies. As we keep a daily count, as of yesterday, we had 150 teacher vacancies. However, we have 120 applicants already that we have interviewed and will be placing in those vacancies. That leaves us with just 30 remaining vacancies that will be filled with degreed long-term substitutes, and they'll stay there until we find qualified, high-quality teachers to fill those vacancies. Many of those substitutes identified to fill those vacancies started work today and will be paid for their professional development experience from now until next Friday before the start of school. We also only have 4 nurse vacancies. That is the lowest that we have experienced in over 5 years. So thank you to our HR team who's worked diligently to fill our nurse vacancies. We'll continue to offer transportation call center to handle parent concerns and calls as it relates to buses. And our staff members answering the calls and our bus lot personnel have received extensive training over the summer on how to handle parent concerns in a professional and expeditious manner. New textbooks have been ordered and delivered for 10 secondary courses and for Reading English Language Arts for grades 3 through 5. New textbooks for Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Spanish for grades K to 3 will be delivered during the first week of school. The School Max Parent Portal will be open for parents and students on Thursday, August 29th, which allow parents and students to review their child's class schedules and bus information. In addition to the parent portal, though, student bus stop information can be found on our main webpage under the yellow light icon where you can pull up your bus information now. Revisions have been made to the Code of Student Conduct that eliminates 4 of the out-of-school suspension infractions. Those infractions have been reduced to in-school suspension. This is one of many ways we will continue to address and support reducing the pipeline to prison initiative supported by our Board of Education and the Maryland Commission on the School to Prison Pipeline and Restorative Practices. We will also host Systemic Orientation Day for pre-K kindergarten students on Thursday, August 29th, and for our new students at grades 6, 7, and 9 on Friday, August 30th. There's lots more back-to-school information which can be found on our main webpage at www.pgcps.org. So please feel free to check our website for back-to-school night information, as well as free and reduced meal applications and more. And lastly, students must all have state-mandated immunizations to attend school. Families with insurance should make an appointment with their child's pediatrician to get immunized. Families needing assistance with vaccine costs can visit our immunization webpage for a list of low-cost or free summer immunization clinics. Please be aware that students who do not have their required immunizations will not be allowed to attend school after September 23rd. So remember, no shots, no school, no exceptions. I look forward to meeting students, staff, and parents on the first day of school and wish everyone all the best as we prepare for what I believe will be an amazing kickoff and an amazing 2019-2020 school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gosen, for your report. Colleagues, we will now move to our registered speakers. I would ask the speakers to adhere to the regulations that were given to you when you signed up. Our first speaker is Suzanne Johnson, an individual regarding Language Immersion Middle School. Ms. Johnson, welcome. Make sure your mic is on there.
Okay. My daughter's beginning third grade at Phyllis E. Williams Spanish Immersion School. As our school's first cohort of full immersion students begin fifth grade, their final year at our school, I'm excited to reflect on things our students have accomplished and look forward to seeing the heights they soar to this year and beyond. For example, last year I shared with you how my daughter has struggled in reading, but finished on grade level in Spanish. Moreover, in her first year of receiving instruction in English language arts, she went from a kindergarten to a third grade reading level. At home and school, we've seen exponential growth in her confidence and excitement for reading. She also excelled in enrichment activities offered at our school. She competed with our school's chess team at American University and contributed to a first place group trophy for the second to third grade division, which was one of the 5 trophies our school won during the tournament. She also performed challenging pieces with our amazing bell choir at the winter and spring music concerts. As an arts integration school, music and visual arts has been an integral part of my daughter's learning. During African American History Month, I was impressed by the arts integration projects from our TAG students in 2nd and 4th grade. The 2nd grade TAG students created dioramas about accomplishments of inspirational African Americans and presented their projects to an audience of parents and other students. Our 4th grade TAG students wrote, directed, and produced their own films. These student films were the highlight of our African American History Assembly for our students and parents. It's exciting to see how some of Lily's classmates have also been using their language skills as young global travelers. Some of her 2nd grade friends traveled to Colombia over spring break, and their travels were featured in an Essence magazine article about jet-setting kids. Earlier this month, a couple of our classmates also spoke in Spanish with the president-elect of Guatemala as they traveled home from their summer trip to immerse themselves in the Guatemalan culture. These are just a few examples of the amazing things happening in our language immersion schools. We must continue to equip our students with the skills that are in high demand by colleges and employers around the world. Having PGCPS language immersion programs through 12th grade will prepare our students to be proficient in 4 of the 10 languages in highest demand for businesses. Language immersion middle and high school programs are essential so that we don't curtail the language proficiency of our students nor limit other cognitive and academic benefits of a bilingual education. I'm thankful for the efforts of the Department of Capital Programs, Language Immersion Office, our CEO, and other PGCPS administration who have been finalizing plans for a centrally located language immersion middle school as our 5th grade students prepare to move to middle school next year. I'm asking for your continued support of the language immersion programs as they are a key component in achieving the PGCPS strategic goal of academic excellence. The numerous accomplishments of our students demonstrate that our programs are preparing them to be college and career ready with the skills that give them a competitive advantage. Thank you for supporting our programs, and I look forward to seeing your approval in November of our language immersion middle school.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson, and for your support of our school system.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Dolores Milhouse, co-founder Bilingual Child, Bilingual Global Leaders. Ms. Milhouse.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, PGCPS Board of Education and Leadership. I'm filled with excitement as we are getting ready for 11 more days before the countdown. I push my babies out the door. As the new PTO president of Phyllis C. Williams Spanish Immersion, we are rolling out the red carpet. I mean, literally rolling out the red carpet. And our theme this year is building community while achieving greatness. And what's important to me is how we're going to frame the story about who we are and what we do. And that really actually begins in this boardroom, because the media doesn't come into the classroom. They come here to see who we are, to hear what we're saying, and we know what we're about. So we need to start telling everyone how great we are. I want to thank Ms. Johnson for coming for you today and speaking about the program. This year, I'm asking the parents to come out and give more highlights about who we are and what we do. I've stood here 8 years plus, and I've asked, and I've pleaded, and I've begged, and I've applauded the work that you have done in supporting language immersion. And now it's about highlighting the great things our students are doing. And it's not just in our program, it's about all the programs across the school district. So if we're not telling our story, and we're letting the media tell our story, then we have lost all sight of what it means to be the greatest school district. So if we want to be the best, we got to start telling our story. And so right now, I need you all to understand that I'll keep coming and talking about the great things that we're doing in language immersion. I'll keep fighting for middle school. I'll keep fighting for high school. But I will start this year in holding you all accountable and telling the story about who we are, telling people that we are great, that we're not great just in how we act and support each other in these board hearings, but what we do outside. We're holding each other accountable. And I do want to just say this. I am really providing so much as it relates to accountability for the parents. I just want you to know that I also need teachers in my classroom. We're one of the schools that I'm missing specialty teachers. And without those teachers, we cannot give our students what they need. And so what I'm saying to you is, thank you for the work that you're doing, but we got to tell our story. And we cannot continue to let someone else say who we are. We know who we are, so let's stand up and be great. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. The next speaker is Crystal Young, Whitehall Elementary School, PTA, overpopulation and lack of teachers. Ms. Young.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am Crystal Young, and I am representing Whitehall Elementary School. I am the PTA president for 2019 and 2020. I actually am an alumni from Suitland High School. Dr. Fawcett was my administrator, actually. So good to see you. Shows his age, right? I wish that I could come to you with such positive report from the two before me. Unfortunately, that is not the case. One of the things I'm extremely proud of is that Whitehall Elementary is probably the most supportive community that you're ever going to encounter. The surrounding community in the neighborhood and the school community, that at any time that we say we have a problem, they will get on the phone, they will tweet, they will email. I'm sure you got a lot of those in the last couple of weeks. And the reason for that is because we are extremely overpopulated. And that is not opinion, that is facts. We are standing at about 639 kids for a school that realistically only holds about 440. We have PE in the hallways. We have a multi-purpose room that is an understatement of multi-purpose. We have lunch, we have gym, we have assemblies, we have classrooms, we have everything in this small multi-purpose room. We asked for more learning cottages. We were only granted one, and we realistically need about 3. We asked for more human resources to provide another kindergarten teacher. That was denied. I do understand from the principal that we were given the instructional lead teacher and another PE teacher and another music teacher, and that's great, right? But specialty is special if the kids in kindergarten are coming into 25, 30, 35 kids per class. For a 5-year-old, that is appalling. We cannot have a kid, in some instances, especially in our community, most of our parents are stay-at-home moms. So for a kindergarten, this is their first experience with school. And now they have to go in a classroom with 30 kids. That's a lot for a third grader, but ridiculous for a kindergartner. We have a problem and we need help. We have expressed that concern over and over again, and actually Ms. Dolores told me that the best way to express our concern is to come before you and express it to you in person. Our PE teacher won great rewards last year for being one of the top PE teachers in the county. But that is because he's learned how to maximize space, because he knows how to have PE class in a hallway. He knows how to do it in a corner. He knows how to do it outside in 30-degree weather. It's not fair. And it's not fair because, as you know, we maintain blue ribbon status. We maintain E-Gate status. We are A+ on our report card. But that sends a message to our kids. Do well, excel, do what you're supposed to do, but get penalized by having 35 kids in your classroom. Get penalized by having long lines to the bathroom. It's appalling, it's offensive, and we hope that you can help us. We hope that you hear our cry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Ms. Michelle Clark regarding community schools. Ms. Clark.
Good evening and welcome back, everybody.
Thank you.
I just wanted to express my disappointment in a few things with the implementation of the community schools. To begin with, it's something that I've done a great deal of research with personally and gone to trainings with NEA. Unfortunately, when I looked online under the jobs position, if you wanted to be a community schools coordinator, you had to move on to ASASP, which, considering the fact that it's an NEA-led initiative, it's something that the unions have supported, the teachers' unions have supported, and we fully lobbied for funding, and at least one of our members was very instrumental in helping the committee that wrote the community schools policy. I'm sorry, I was offended to find out that I would have to change what union I was a part of if I wanted to be part of an initiative that is supposed to change and better our schools. And I just pulled up, as a reminder, that some of the components of the 6 pillars of the community schools: a strong and proven curriculum, high quality teaching, inclusive leadership, positive discipline practices. There are also, of course, the community support services, wraparound and family and community engagement. But I have recently found out that many of the people who are being hired for these positions are actually social workers. And while wraparound services is a key component of community schools, there are 4 educational components that most social workers aren't going to know anything about. My biggest fear is that we're going to implement this policy and it's not going to work because we're not implementing it properly and with fidelity. We need educators to be working with the community schools so that we can bring the correct curriculums, the leadership we need. And this was our initiative. We brought this to you and pushed it. It is truly offensive for somebody to tell me I have to leave my PGCEA family if I want one of these positions. And I'm not willing to do that because we are a family and we work hard and we're good at what we do. I think you need to look at this policy and how it's being implemented and make sure that it is implemented the right way so we don't lose our funding in the future because we screwed up and it didn't work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark, for your comments. The next speaker is Latasha Frink Harrison. Is Ms. I don't see her, so we'll move next to Mr. Martin Diggs, bus driver and aides. Mr. Diggs.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
First, let me start by saying thank you. I appreciate the work that you guys did for us last school year, so don't let it go unmentioned that I ever said didn't appreciate it. So thank you to Monica Golson, Thank you to everyone on the board. Thank you, Dr. Thornton, for everything that you guys have done. The things that I'm going to talk about tonight is actually how to have a great start. And I know I'm not asking questions, but the things that I'm going to say is kind of rhetorical. Would you go to a certified lion trainer in order to be a deep sea diver? Would you go to a police officer to learn how to be a tightrope walker? Would you go to a firefighter to learn how to be a farmer? No, you wouldn't, because those things are just stupid. Then if someone so my point is this, if someone in transportation has some ideas that actually make things better, why not listen to that person? I'm talking about a person or people who actually do the job and do a good job at it. We just picked our runs this week, and there were a lot of issues that we had to deal with. So some of the ideas that I have to bring up again in order to make things better so that we do not face the issue of dealing with contractors next year are these. One, pay us a living wage. Why is it the bus drivers are starting underneath what it takes to transport trash for PG County? If we're saying that we're providing transportation for tomorrow's biggest and brightest futures, why are we getting such less pay? Another thing, summer work. We're considered 10-month employees. Now, we can work during the summer, but that doesn't even go to our retirement. Yes, we can actually get a little bit more. We can go into that in detail, but we're considered 10-month employees. So whereas we work for 17 years, it's really not 17 years, it's working to our retirement. That's something that needs to change. And then the last thing is proration. Why is it that with proration, people who are not considered 10-month employees, who are 12-month employees, making well above a livable wage, why are they the ones that actually can make the decision on if our checks are prorated or not? We know what it is, and we know we're not making enough money, so why can't we make that change? Even with looking at how much it actually costs, you have people who are making well over a livable wage driving company cars. Is anyone actually looking at that to say on one end of the coin, it's okay to drive these cars and these people making over a livable wage doesn't bother them, but then other people who aren't even making a livable wage, we can't even get the money that we need. We have hustlers out there who are trying to make the job work, but we cannot do it because on our jobs, so many ideas are coming down the pike that actually puts us in a situation that they tell us over and over again, you're gonna work and you're not gonna get paid for doing it. I really need you all to look into it so that we're not at this situation come next year and everyone's happy. So let's have a great start.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Diggs. Our next speaker is Ms. Teresa Mitchell-Dudley, who's president of the Prince George's County Educators Association. Ms. Dudley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before you start my time, I just want to say one thing. A Prince George's County graduate, Joyce Evelyn Dudley, was just sworn in as a Foreign Service Officer working for the State Department, came through our French immersion program. The importance of our language program is immense, and I just want to thank the parents that came out tonight because she is doing amazing things, and our children can do amazing things with the language learning opportunities. Okay, you can start my time now.
Are you now the chair of the Board of Education?
Don't get me started because you said my name wrong, okay? So we're going to keep on moving.
Ms. Ellis,
All right.
would you take 3 minutes, 3 seconds? Please proceed, Madam.
Welcome back to school, everybody. I'm so glad to see our Board of Education, and I'm so happy to be living in Prince George's County, PG County, Pretty Girl County. I'm so happy to be here. And that is also for prestigious Gentleman County, Dr. Thornton. So we're back to school. We had PEEP, amazing, great turnout of our educators, and thank you, Dr. Murphy, for making sure that our educators had their technology the first day when they showed up. That is a big achievement, and we appreciate that. Thank you for all of the back to school fair. We had hundreds of students write about who their favorite teacher was, and I'm going to be delivering packages to all of those teachers, the 3 winners. Today, I got the opportunity to go to Carroll Highlands and visit Ezra Papinak. I got to go to Suitland Elementary School and see Nicola Ross and Mark Wilger. I got to go to Francis Fuchs Early Childhood Center, and I got to visit Crossland High School and see Raul Daggett and Deborah Neal. It has been a wonderful day, and I feel good about where we're going. I do have some concerns, especially concerning our conditional teachers. We hired a lot more conditional teachers this year, and we cannot keep hiring fodder to throw on the front line and then not making a way to help those people get certified. And we must make sure that they have time enough to do it. 20 blah blah years ago, I was hired by Prince George's County Public Schools as a conditional teacher. I was working as a computer lab aide in 2250. And what Prince George's County Public Schools did for me at that time is they gave me a waiver on my tuition reimbursement so that I could go to Bowie, Trinity, Prince George's County Community College and take the classes where I had to pay a small portion of it, get a B or better, and they paid the first $375 towards my classes. Thank you. I took 18 credits my first summer, I took 12 credits the next summer and 9 the next, and then I became certified. We have to invest in our teachers and make sure that those 400 teachers that we hired over the past couple of years that received a pink slip, teachers who have received excellent evaluations for 2 and 3 years, that we're just casting them aside. We've got to work with the state and make sure that those educators get their praxis waivers and their certification waivers so they can come back and teach. They shouldn't be long-term subs. They should be full-time educators in the classroom. They are competent, they are well-versed in our curriculum, and for us to go out and hire more conditional teachers and throw them into the lion's den without helping them is a sin and a shame. So I would appreciate whatever the board can do to make sure that the resources are there, and I implore you to keep working on this, Dr. Golson, and I want to thank you for your work on putting us on the ESSA reauthorization.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President. The next speaker is Mark Naden. Is Mark here? Not here. Our last speaker is Annette Jones. Could not make it. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for all who came to speak to the Board of Education tonight. Before we move forward with the business of the board, I think our student member had one item as a part of his comments that he overlooked.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Thornton. I did want to recognize, I know usually the seat isn't filled, but a big portion of students in Prince George's County are student leaders, and they attend something that we call PGRAS, which stands for the Prince George's Regional Associations of Student Governments. And we have Vanessa Velas from High Point High School, who will be representing them for this year. So Vanessa, welcome to the board. And hopefully that seat will be filled all year at every board meeting, CIP hearing, and all the meetings included. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. We'll now move our attention to consent agenda items 4-1, 4-3, 4-4, 4-5, 4-6. We're pulling 4-2 for comment. Dr. Golson, any comments about those before the board acts?
No.
Thank you. Colleagues, a motion is in order in reference to 4-1, 4-3, 4-4, 4-5, and 4-6.
So moved.
Properly moved and seconded that the items as read be approved by the board. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. Our student member has asked us to pull 4-2, Mr. Omadel.
Thank you. I spoke with Dr. Golson about this. The proclamation for Hispanic Heritage Month, although it is something that will definitely increase the promotion of Hispanic Heritage Month, something that I did recognize was that when we did the proclamation for Black History Month, we also included in another piece of legislation having a Black Lives Matter Week, which is a week-long activities and education, social studies, and reading classes for students to engage in. And I believe Parkdale High School and other high schools were on the news for that Black Lives Matter Week. So I wanted to bring up the discussion on also having a week-long activity week-long activity, for Hispanic Heritage Month that students can engage in. And just for an example, this is just hypothetical, but Hispanic Heritage Month is from September 15th to October 15th. So if we were to do a week-long of activities from September 30th to the 4th of October, it would not only increase the morale of students who are Hispanic, because Hispanic students represent 30% of students in Prince George's County, which is the second largest percentage aside from African Americans. So to really give them the respect and the opportunity to share their culture with all the students of Prince George's County, I think is something that would be greatly important. And in addition, just to make sure that we're representing them and giving them the stage to be seen and heard.
Thank you. Mr. Burrows.
So moved.
Properly moved. Is there a second? It's been properly moved and seconded that item 4.2 be approved by the board. Ms. Ahmed, you wanted to comment on that?
Yes, just one comment. So, Dr. Goldston, I've been in this role for over 2 years now, and I feel like we've passed a lot of really great proclamations and resolutions, but I don't know that all of the folks in our schools and our employees know about this work. And they're very important commemorative days and months that we want to practice, so people need to know about them. My question is, can our communications team please send an alert or message to our employees in our schools about the proclamations and resolutions that we pass as a board every month?
So definitely, I do want to say that we used to, for every proclamation, just send a memo to the principals just reminding them of it. Last year, what we did do is convert to a calendar with those actual proclamations listed on a monthly calendar for the entire school year. An employee can actually click on the link, for example, for National Hispanic Heritage Month on September 15th. Click on, get all of the information that's listed here from the Board Action Summary, and then the links that are also listed here that provide them access to other resources as well.
Okay, I appreciate the fact that it's going to school leadership, but I think also it may be better to go to our other employees and also members of our community in general, just so that they're aware of what we're doing, what's going on.
We'll make sure that we add it into, what we used was a format similar to my PPS, so we'll add it into that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmed. Colleagues, Ms. Queen.
I just want to add on to what Ms. Ahmed said. I think it's a good idea listening to what she said. One of the things is a lot of our schools, especially our high schools and our middle schools, have media, and a lot of them do their own media and advertisement, and that will be a good thing for them to highlight it toward the other students, because with history, the way to get history out there is for us to be repetitive with it, and to be repetitive, we need to be saying it in the morning, remind people of what it is. So if somehow we can make sure our principals realize when it is Black Lives Matter Week, that we realize that we highlight that week, or if it's Heritage Month, we highlight that month, and that means something every day could be done, especially when they have this. Most of the schools have announcements in the morning, so something could be done during their announcements.
Thank you, Ms. Queen. Colleagues, we'll now move our attention to the board consent agenda. And Dr. Golson, we're going to pull, and colleagues, items 5.2, 5.3, 5.4. We didn't vote on that one? Okay. It was moved by Mr. Burrows and seconded that we approve the proclamation. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. Now, to the board consent agenda. We will pull, Dr. Golson will pull items 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.9, 5.10, and 5.11. And with your consent, Dr. Golson, we will have a motion regarding the others.
So moved. Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we approve 5.01, 5.55, 5.6, 5.7, and 5.8. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. Ms. Ahmed, regarding 5.2.
Yes, so 5.2 is in regard to our foundation school. I was looking at the proposal that's there, and 5.2, and it seems to me it's almost $1 million partnership for 15 students. That's over $60,000 per student. And so my question is there a plan to move these services in-house so that we don't need to spend that much money? Yeah.
Yeah, I just also want to point out, if you look at the backup supplement information that you receive, our local school system total cost is $568,997. Our MSDE grant award amount request was for $356,936. So ours is actually only $5. Our contribution is $568.
Yeah.
With regard to the foundation partnership, sorry. Move the mic up. Can you hear me now? With regard to the foundation partnership, finally. Prince George's County Public Schools and other large neighboring jurisdictions like Montgomery County have had a partnership with foundations in this way for about 25 years. The progressive part about this partnership is there are times when students are in an emotional crisis, and we need to be able to move forward as a district by having seats readily available that can offer the appropriate supports and services for our students. And so this partnership is very, very critical because it provides an opportunity that enables the school system to move forward. Now, yes, Prince George's County is continuously looking at improving the quality of our own transition services within our school system, and we are looking at the expansion of transition services as we look at the capital improvement planning process as well. But in the meantime, there always are those students that we need to have an immediate response to in order to be able to serve them because their needs far exceed what our comprehensive schools can provide.
Okay, I would just ask then as a follow-up item if we could have some data on the cost breakdown of what it would be if we were to even try to do this in-house versus the partnership, just from my awareness to be able to see what we're looking at in terms of cost and also quality of service.
All right, thank you very much. We can provide that.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmad. Ms. Queen? No?
Question. I have a question because
You
I'm
don't.
5.3, so I'm not sure.
Okay, that's fine. Ms. Williams, is it on 5.2? Please.
My question is related to 5.2, but I think I just want a little clarity. I had an opportunity this Tuesday to spend time with our bus drivers in one of their sessions there, all-day sessions. And one session that I sat in was students with special needs. And they talked about all of the services that we provide our students with special needs, not just students with disabilities, physical disabilities, but some with mental disabilities and some with emotional disabilities. And some of those services require us to transport students outside of the county. And so if I'm understanding correctly, which I thought I did about the foundation school, this service just so happens to be within the boundaries of Prince George's County.
Yes, it does.
So it's similar to what we would do for a student who needs to go to Baltimore or Montgomery County or DC. So it just so happens that in order for us to provide the education, what did they call it? Free, appropriate education to all students.
Yes.
We may not provide that service within the walls of our 209 schools.
That is correct. There will always be a subset of students with an emotional disability whose needs exceed what our comprehensive schools can provide. And the foundation school is the closest school to our community that will enable access to those services.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Valentine. Mr. Valentine, did you press?
It was me.
No, Mr. Murray.
I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Mason, for being proactive on this. As a special educator of students with emotional disabilities, it's very important that the system act quickly in circumstances when it's necessitated. So I just wanted to thank you on behalf of those students.
Thank you.
Colleagues, the vote is on 5. Oh, Mr. Burris.
I just wanted to join colleague Murray in thanking you for your work on this issue and a host of other issues in that department. Your willingness to meet with parents and work with them, the advocacy groups, has really been a huge asset to the system. So thank you, Dr. Mason.
Thank you very much.
Colleagues, the vote is on 5-2. Those in favor of it, please say aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. We'll now move to 5-3. Ms. Ahmed.
Yeah, so in terms of this parking license agreement, I'm just wondering what we're getting from this agreement. Specifically, have we asked MWC to adopt a school or something like that?
So the short answer is yes. We actually have MWC to adopt a school, and they have offered to do so.
Okay, and is there anything else that like interaction partnership that we're trying to build with them?
I mean, their request was to use the parking lot of Barack Obama when we're not in school, not in session, and generally speaking, we tend to allow those things to occur as long as it doesn't interfere with the school activities.
Okay, thank you.
Without asking for anything in return. That's a good
but they
community
just
partner.
gave it. This is good. Okay.
Ms. Queen.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you guys for this because this is very important to me, to my heart. We have to learn to partnership with our churches, with our community and our nonprofits, and nothing more important. Even though we're a school system, we have to realize that a lot of our babies go to a lot of these local churches, and the greatest thing is the partnership with them. Our churches give back to our schools a lot more than we realize they give back to the schools. So to take this time to partnership to give them a couple of spots, we really need to do that. It's called unity in the community, and to have that unity, we have to learn to work together, the schools, the churches, and the community. So again, I say thank you for doing this.
Colleagues, the vote is on 5-3. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. We'll now move to 5-4, New Glenridge Area Middle School. Ms. Ahmed.
Yes, two questions on this. The first one is, has anyone spoken to the Glenridge and Deerfield run communities, school communities, before bringing this before our board?
No.
Why not? Like, what is the process? Why would we not reach out to them?
Well, the property that we're transferring at Deerfield Run is property it's wooded property and with a stream running through it. It's not where the school is. It's just property attached to that. So we're transferring the property we couldn't build on. That's the first one. And the new Glenridge Elementary School that we're talking about in that property transfer, that facility is mostly bused into that area. It's not from the community there. So the appropriate community we would be dealing with eventually would be in the Margaret Brent area.
Okay. I just think, does anyone at the school know?
They're all bused.
This is a new site. It's not an existing.
Yeah, but we're exchanging our existing properties at Glenridge and Deerfield.
It's just land. It's unoccupied land.
All right. And then next question is the amount we're acquiring sufficient to build the middle school that we want?
Yes, we did a feasibility study, and the land is appropriate for the site.
It's appropriate. It's big enough. Everything.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Murray.
Good evening, Mr. Malik. I just wanted to thank you for working out this agreement and talking to the Deerfield Run community. You know, my mom managed Deerfield Run Community Center for, I think, around 10 years, as well as my councilman, Tom Dranoga. We're really excited about the possibilities that this land swap is going to open up, particularly with regard to a new park and planning community center on the land, which is really exciting for my district, and it's something that I'm looking forward to supporting. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Queen, was your light on?
Again, I want to comment. Again, I just want to say thank you, guys. This is an awesome thing. It's nothing more important than a partnership with Maryland National Capital Park and Planning, and to make sure that the school we have has enough parking for the teachers and for the visitors and the students, you know, in that area. So I do, again, thank you. And as my colleague just said, it's nothing more important than us to have a community center connected to the schools, because if it was up to me, all of our schools will have after-school program, and one day we will get there, definitely in District 6.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve 5-4?
So moved.
Properly moved and seconded that 5-4 be approved. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. We'll now move to 5-9, Suitland Modernization. Ms. Ahmed.
So for 5.9, 5.10, 5.11, I was kind of having the same thought on this. I actually made a chart to try and figure out all of what's going on over here. But it seems between these three design contracts that you're asking for us to approve tonight, that's $40 million, over $40 million worth of design contracts for three schools. And I was looking at what we have approved for those schools in our CIP, and it seems like the design costs, for example, for Suitland, the design cost for Suitland is almost 10% of the construction cost. Mr. Matlock, is 10% to have a design contract that's 10% of construction cost? Is that typical?
So the cost that we're for Suitland, according to the feasibility study that was approved by the board, was roughly over $200 million. So this is not actually 10% of the actual, but it's around 6.5%, which is below the market rate of around 7%.
Okay, so 6.5 to 7% is the market rate. What's concerning to me is what's in our CIP doesn't show that. What's approved in our CIP, if you compare that to the proposed design for Suitland, the Northern Area High School, and for High Point, all show a greater percentage than I think the market rate that you've just described. So how do we, that doesn't reconcile in my head.
I don't know that we have a construction budget for any of these in the CIP. We only have the design budget at the moment. We haven't actually put a construction budget in yet.
We've only gotten local planning money. We didn't get the construction money yet.
Okay. I guess I was looking at the total project costs in the CIP for previous years. In our fiscal year 2020 to 2025 board approved CIP program, I'm looking at the summary of projects, and it shows a total project estimated cost for High Point, for the Northern Area High School, and for Suitland, and those are the numbers that I was basing these kinds of percentages off of, and so it's concerning to me because the proposed design values seem very high for me based upon the market value that you shared of 6.5 to 7%.
So, as you know, we just approved a recent feasibility study for Suitland and for High Point. High Point's value, cost of construction, went up to $211 million for that one, and that's for High Point. And then Suitland is somewhere north of that.
I've got it. Suitland, it showed over 300. High Point, the feasibility showed 218. The highest option was 218. Northern Area High School, I don't know about that one. But these are the numbers from the feasibility study. So I guess my next step is, did anyone cross-check the amounts on the feasibility study? Because in Suitland, it shows a 15% design rate as compared to construction budget, which is huge, right? So I'm trying to see who's cross-checked that.
So as far as the cost of design is concerned, what we've attempted to do, and I think we've done fairly successfully, at least in regard to Suitland, is that we've negotiated a price that we believe is under the market rate of 7%, and for the size of the school that we're building, it would be acceptable. As far as the other two schools, that would be the New Adelphi School and the price that we have for the New Adelphi School would be for both feasibility and design. So the thing that we're looking at right now is, rather than try to approve two contracts, one for feasibility and then come back and approve another one for design, we want to try and put them together. So that's why the cost for that one includes both feasibility and design. That's why it's a little high. And then for the High Point contract, the High Point contract is because it's roughly between $211 and $218 million, and that's under 7%. If the price were to exceed 7%, we would not accept the price. So we're going onto our on-call groups for these prices. So if they exceed that amount, then we would not accept the contract.
Okay, I would just request in the board action summaries for all of these items for that percentage amount to be listed, that this design contract comes at a 6.5 or a 7% rate of construction, because maybe it's just my numbers being wrong, but I think other folks should understand. They're probably having similar confusion that I am, so I would appreciate those to be added to the board action summary, and also that feasibility piece for the Northern Area High School, because that didn't come off clearly to me.
Thank you, Mr. Matt. Mr. Wallace?
One question, is that possible? Is that gonna be, okay.
Yeah, that's possible. That'll be done. Mr. Wallace?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I certainly echo the sentiments of my colleague, Ms. Ammett, regarding Suitland High School. As everyone knows, this is my little talking point. It's the only high school that pulls from every school board district. So I'm glad everyone is involved in the analysis of Suitland High School. No, I really am. In regards to 5.9, last time we had, it's the same architect firm, correct? That did.
Yes, it is.
And there was, in the board action summary, there was some language I proposed a year and a half ago that charged the architect firm to have a community meeting. I recently joined Councilman Mel Franklin at a community, and thank you, Mr. Madlock, for being there as well. There were some community concerns about the lack of advertising of that community meeting and the lack of multiple ones. So I'm not going to introduce an amendment, but I just want to work with the administration and the continuing architect firm to have multiple community listening sessions, specifically in regards to the aesthetic design of this new school. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Mr. Burrows?
Mr. Medlock, you mentioned that Suitland will cost $300 million, High Point $200 million. And what's the cost for the new northern area?
Right now, it's projected to be somewhere between 160 and 180 million dollars.
Okay. And this is, obviously I support the construction of High Point and Suitland, but I do wonder, is it not possible to spend half the cost and just renovate these buildings, make them very nice? I mean, is that not a?
So, in the case of Suitland High School, we're already experiencing some structural issues that we need to address. We're actually going to be doing some shoring up, and so that's going to be one issue that it won't be possible to keep that building exactly as. If you looked at the design that we had in the feasibility study, we're preserving as much of the building as we can and incorporating it into the new design. But overall, so it's not a completely new building, but we're preserving what we can, and in relationship to High Point, that's exactly what we're doing. It's really like it's more of a large-scale renovation than it is a new building. We're basically adding on to the building, and we're renovating aspects of it, but we're, again, preserving as much of the building as possible.
Okay. And then you mentioned an on-call group.
Yes, the board approved a list of on-call back in February. You approved a list of 30 architectural firms, about a third of which were MBEs, and we approved them as an on-call list of architects. The purpose of having an on-call list is that they're pre-qualified. That means for a particular type of construction or design, they're pre-qualified to perform that type of work. And so there are roughly about 10 firms that are approved to do new construction for us above $50 million. And so what we would do is the solicitation would be in the hands of those 10 firms. They would then move forward and then we would select competitively from their responses.
Yes, I remember that list. It was 30 names with no supporting documentation. We had no clue who those contractors were. And to this day, I have no clue who they are. My question is, will we not get a better price if we opened up the bidding process to anyone and everyone? I mean, why are we pre-selecting 10 people? They all know that we're okay with going at 7%. What do we lose by allowing anyone in the country to apply to increase the competition versus going with a list of 10 companies that we don't know anything about?
I must apologize. I realize that you don't have as much information about the firms as I do.
I don't.
Or as our team does, and I appreciate that may be some frustration there. But we had roughly 60 firms come out and compete to be pre-qualified as part of our, to do work for PGCS. There are some firms, obviously, that may not have decided to bid on these, to be part of the pre-qualification list. Cox and Gray being one of them, the one that's being selected for Suitland. But we have to remember that these are people who have decided that they wanted to do business with Prince George's County Public Schools. So if we're going to, if these people were going to take the time to put together a package, we had several teams evaluating each one of these firms. It took months to do, and in order to establish a pre-qualified list.
Could you just answer my question? Because
I'm sorry.
My question
no,
is
the answer is I don't believe that we'll get a better pricing to do it, and I also don't believe that we'll get any better quality and design than these firms. Some of these firms are the leading firms in the nation in public school construction. Thank you.
And we'll provide you the list again with supporting documentation of those.
And also evidence that this is the best practice to do it this way. I would like to see evidence that other school districts are doing this way, that this makes the most sense to just select. You said 10, now you mentioned 60, so I don't know if it's 10 or if it's 60, but I have a lot of questions about this.
Thank you, Mr. Burris. Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Thornton. Mr. Matlock, on the entire procurement process of how we do business in selecting architects, asbestos administrators, contractors, it appears to be convoluted and a little confusing. I would like to know if we could have your specialist that handles the construction process come in and maybe talk to us. Maybe we could set up a meeting so that we can go over the procurement and selection and award process, just so that we can be up to speed. So you mentioned that there were about 60 firms that submitted an application to participate in the designing of any of our schoolwork. That includes new school construction, renovations, small changes to the school. In that process, can you just talk about what it takes to go from you all needing the service to you all selecting the on-call architects?
Okay, so initially we put out a request for solicitation. We had roughly about 60 firms come to the initial meeting, which was they met and we explained what was going to be in the RFP. And then they were issued, the RFPs were issued electronically.
And that's a request for proposal.
Yes.
So in that proposal, you're talking about your experience.
Yes.
And your unit price per hour.
Actually, we didn't request the unit price per hour in that process. If we had, then we could just assign schools, but that wasn't the process we wanted to utilize. Anne Arundel County uses that process. Baltimore City uses that process. There are lots of comparative jurisdictions in Maryland that use this process. But so what we asked for was qualifications, resumes, a body of work that we could look at and determine ranges of prices of that work that they did, relative values, and a proposal how they go about performing their work. That was then evaluated by a select team to go over all those things. And some of these people had experience. A lot of our team evaluators had experience with all these firms at some point in various history, so we had some background on them. There's also a background check, so they had to agree to commit to a certain amount of minority participation on their projects. They had to agree to other requirements that we normally have.
So this process was looking at the work that they've done in the past to ensure that they have done schoolwork and they're not just doing bridges and now want to get into schoolwork. So those people that had no experience, you were able to weed them out. And then,
yes.
And then you looked at the resumes of the people that are on their team.
Yes.
And you also looked at the dollar value of the work that they have done. Just because they may have done a school, if they've only done a one-room schoolhouse versus a our schools that are very large, we eliminated those. Once you shortlisted those folks, what was the process to get to a dollar value? Do you do that on every single project? Do you go out to those shortlisted folks and ask for a price?
Yes.
Or what? Okay. So when you go out to the short list of folks that you have already pre-qualified because you know that they're capable to do the design, then you said, here are some schools. The group that was shortlisted, they competed against themselves.
Correct.
Okay. So this is different from a construction process where you're saying, we have this 10,000 square foot room that you want to build. Please price the drywall, carpet, electrical. That's a different process.
Yes.
But you do look at the qualifications of that contractor.
The purpose of doing the on-call was to shorten the period of time from which the time we wanted to assign a project to when the project, to when we select someone. So if you had to go out and do a pre-qualification for every new person, we'd have to go through the entire qualification process again. Each time. And so this point, and one of the things that makes it difficult for us to get projects, particularly state projects, under contract is the design period takes so long.
So you've cut out that pre-qualification period because we have that annual cycle that we have to meet, not only our summer schedule, but our state schedule for approval.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, we have two more speakers and then we'll vote. Ms. Ahmad?
Yeah, so on a different vein, I just wanted to ask, are the capacities here for these design projects reflective of the projected enrollment of the schools? Essentially, I'm trying to ask if the school buildings that we're going to build, we're not building schools that are going to be ultimately overcrowded on day one, correct?
That's a complicated answer. Depending on the order in which schools are constructed, and it also depends upon, how, there are a lot of issues that go into it. I can't really answer your question yes or no.
Oh, okay.
So let me be the one to say yes.
Okay.
Very similar to what we did at Oxon Hill. So for an example would be Suitland. We know that we have a variety of programs at Suitland, and Suitland is actually two schools. There's a football field that separates two. So already the design and structure of that is different. If you recall, initially when we did a plan, it was a whole complex. And so we do have to look at ways surrounding numbers, have a lot to play into this process. When we go through the interagency for school construction, we look at available seats and occupancy. It is advantageous to us that we were able to close Forestville and move students into Suitland. But at the same time, we also know that we're putting a lot of investment and money into Crossland High School's CTE program. We also have a CTE program at Suitland. It would be obviously smarter for us to begin to look at ways to continue to expand the program at Suitland, and potentially, since we're looking at a new, at Crossland, since we're looking at a new Suitland, begin to look at ways to maybe maximize that opportunity. By doing that for CTE, that helps us to meet the state requirement in terms of size capacity for Suitland.
Okay.
So when he said it's a little complicated, it is, but in the long run, for Suitland, yes, it could very well, because it's based on, if we're at 82% capacity at Suitland, and if we've been that way for years, then they're going to provide us the money to build a school that's close to that same capacity.
Okay.
Especially based on the fact that the surrounding schools are also under-enrolled.
Okay, so I understand for Suitland, but for the Northern Area High School and for High Point, my I guess follow-up question to that is, if we were to request a school from the state for a larger capacity than we've already contractually entered for a design, what would be the cost associated with changing the capacity for a school?
Yeah, then we'd have to go back to an architect and ask them to do a different design, because remember, we're building. So the example for High Point is that we're literally doing a renovation on the space and acreage that we have. To do an expansion now brings into a whole lot of other factors. If you pay attention to where High Point is, there's actually an apartment building to the left of it. Mm-hmm. We'd have to be looking at the space that's behind it. Do we own that space? Well, we have to purchase that land. How much of that land behind it could we purchase? And then we'd have to redo all the design again.
So essentially, we're locked into the capacity that we've identified in these contracts.
Unless you're doing it in a new location, which would be a new Adelphi area high school.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmed. Ms. Queen?
Question, you mentioned on-call. So my question is, how often will this list be updated? Is this the list we're gonna keep forever, or will other businesses or contractors get a chance to be a part of this list? My next question, I'm gonna roll them as they go, because my time will be going.
So it will be updated, and it will be updated every other year.
Every other year, okay. Okay, and then who will be mandating to make sure preference is not given to one contractor more than the other, so we can make sure there's no backroom deals, no kickbacks, because I'm not having it. So who's gonna be doing that?
So the process, we have an AP that looks into rotation. We also we have a rule where we don't give more than 2 projects to any firm at one time.
Okay, and did we make sure that the large contractors partnership with MBEs or smaller local contractors? I know one of the things Mr. Barrow said, did you go countrywide? No, because to me, if you live, work, and play right here in Prince George's County, you're more invested in where you live at. That means that I'm more concerned about being Prince George's County proud. I'm more concerned about being that our schools are gorgeous Prince George's, and we represent it. If we have contractors come from all over, they're not invested. They don't care as much as a person who lives. And so I don't want all over contractors. I want people who live right here, who work right here, so who go to church in this area, so we can enjoy our schools and they take pride in what was built.
Thank you, Ms. Queen. Mr.
Can you
Burrows?
answer my question?
I'm sorry. Yes.
So
Yes.
the design
Was there a
firms that
question?
this is for design, not actually
Yeah.
contracting. So it isn't quite as applicable, but most of the firms are relatively local.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Queen. Mr. Burrows?
I would just ask the board office and Mr. Wallace and Ms. Ahmed, chairing policy and budget, to look at this to make sure that it is, the best practice. I want to make sure that whatever process we have is one that is balanced and full of integrity. And I'm just concerned about this on-call process.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows. Colleagues, the vote is on 5-9, 5-10, and 5-11. Is there a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded that 5-9, 5-10, and 5-11 be passed. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. And one abstention, please, Mr. Burrows. Thank you. Colleagues, we will now move to something I'm very proud of, which is the board's approval, hopefully tonight, with a motion regarding our legal services. As you know, the Board of Education decided to transition to new legal services. The board has worked collaboratively to consider several applicants to provide legal services to the board. The board has before it a legal services agreement, and a motion is in order now to approve that legal services agreement.
So moved.
It's been properly moved and seconded that the legal services agreement, which has been, by the way, made available to the public, be approved by the Board of Education. Any comments regarding it?
I'll make a comment.
The legal services firm that is before the Board of Education is the firm of Roger Thomas, who comes to us with the unanimous support, I think, of the board, as you'll see tonight, is a long-term attorney that's been associated with the school system. If there are no other comments, Mr. Burrows.
I'm just so proud to have someone with education experience who will be timely with our appeals and supporting our students and our employees. And so I'm just very, very excited that we have someone working with the board with expertise in the field of education. I think it'll make a very big difference.
Thank you, colleague. The motion is on the floor as seconded. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. Let the record reflect that it's unanimous. And Mr. Thomas is not here, is that right? Where are you, sir? You may now join us. Even though we're not going to start paying you until tomorrow. So. But Mr. Thomas, again, welcome, sir. We really look forward to working with you as a board, and it should, hopefully it's encouraging that you receive the unanimous support from this Board of Education. Thank you, thank you. We have an emergency item before us now, colleague, and I'll now yield the floor to Dr. Golson to introduce the emergency item 8.1. Dr. Golson.
Yes, item 8.1 requires board approval as an emergency for a contract with Exquisite Limousine Services, LLC.
A motion is in order for discussion.
So moved.
Is properly moved and seconded that the contract award for Exquisite Limousine be approved by the Board of Education. Ms. Ahmed.
Yes, Mr. Stanton, if we are operating TPA at the moment, why can't we bus them using our own Department of Transportation?
We don't have.
I can kind of speak that a little bit. So, as you know, right now we are still making sure that we maintain the transportation for our students who are in our regular education situation. But one of the requests by the administration and the community of TPA was that we maintain the bus contract that they had previously had with the previous foundation, because the hope is, as you know, to put out a request this year, have another foundation or another organization take over, and they want to maintain the transportation relationship that they've had with this company.
Oh, okay, so then, are we paying the same amount that TPA paid?
Yes.
Exact same?
Yes.
Oh, they were paying a lot, okay.
Yeah.
And we added in additional provisions and indemnity.
Absolutely, indemnity.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmed. Mr. Burrows.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo my support for this wholeheartedly. I think they pretty much mentioned everything. I think the only additional thing to add is that they're paying for this out of their budget still. So this is no additional cost to the school district whatsoever. It was so important to maintain the relationship because next year an external group will be running the school, not us. And so it didn't make sense to destroy this relationship and then have them scramble for the next school year. So this makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, colleague. Ms. Queen.
Thank you so very much. My question was, and Mr. Barrows did explain, because my grandkids go to TPA, and I know we didn't pay for bus services, so I wanted to understand. So now I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. The vote is before us. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. The vote is unanimous. Dr. Golson, I'll now yield to you to introduce the first reader item regarding capital improvement programs.
Yes, item 9.1 requires board approval as a first reader.
Motion is in order. It's been is there, Ms. Ahmed?
Yes, just.
We don't normally discuss, okay. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it.
Can I have a point of personal privilege?
Don't say personal privilege because we only
well,
have
can I have a
Go
point?
ahead,
Well, we
just-
didn't even, did
go ahead.
anyone second that?
Yeah,
Point of order?
I thought I heard yes. Miss Eubanks seconded.
Point of order, may I provide
Mr.
comment?
Valentine seconded. Did you, Mr. Valentine seconded. There, his hand, he seconded. Mr. Valentine seconded.
Okay, well, can I have a point of clarification on this point, on this?
Go ahead, hold it.
Point of order on this point?
Hold it. Ms. Ahmed, you want to say something?
Yes,
Please say something.
Okay, no, in previous years, when it comes to the CIP and the plan, we have had an outline of the changes that are being proposed to the CIP, and all I see right now is a PowerPoint, and I don't know that this can be considered a first reader because we're not reading the thing that we're supposed to be voting on as second reader. And so I'm even thinking of maybe this should be brought back to us as a first reader at the beginning of September with the information that shows the changes that are being proposed in the CIP.
Okay.
And the reason I do that as well is because in the previous years, in 2018 and 2017, I looked through board docs. It was proposed originally at the beginning of September and approved as a second reader at the end of September, so I don't think that this would affect a timeline.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor which will be well, it's not supposed to be debated, though. Not supposed to be debated. We'll see. Dr. Golson, you're trying to say something?
No, I was just over here clarifying for him.
Okay, we're not
we've had
supposed
this
to,
I know we're not supposed to discuss, so.
right, we're not supposed to be discussing it, so we're gonna vote. If it fails, then it fails, and we'll go back. I see a lot of lights, and we're not supposed to be discussing it, so colleagues, let's not overly complicate this. Let's work it out. And I'm interested in, we have a first reader that's not supposed to be debated. We have a parliamentary concern from one of our colleagues. I'm going to list, I think I see 3 people who want to talk, and so let's try to make it work. Mr. Valentine. Oh, Mr. Murray, I don't, you guys need to work. Mr. Murray.
Well, I was going to defer to the parliamentarian of the board, Mr. Burrows, because, I mean, it's, the board can discuss anything on first reading. We've discussed this very thing in the past.
Parliamentarian of the board?
What was a joke? It was a joke.
I'm sure
but
it
we
was.
We have discussed things on first reader many times before, and it's within the board's right, and clearly the board would
Well, that's
like to
what we're
discuss.
doing now. So
We're discussing whether we
that's
can
what we're
discuss
doing
right
now.
now.
Ms. Eubanks, you're pushing a lot of lights. Mr. Burrows. Mr. Burrows.
I was just going to state, according to the board policy, there's no prohibition to discuss or debate or alter first reader. So it is in order.
Thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian. Ms. Ahmed.
Yes, so what may be helpful is if administration could provide the documentation requested and post it. Well, they need to be posted for the public to see, right?
Correct. We do post it right before the public hearing on September 12th.
I just think that if it's a first reader, it needs to be posted as soon as it's posted as a first reader.
Colleagues, let's try to make this work and without it getting complicated. Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Ahmed, for your comment. I just wanted to get clarity from the administration. Ms. Ahmed cited that previous years the timeline was actually September. So can we have any clarity on this?
So I can provide a little bit of clarity. So historically, I think Mr. I can actually, because Mr. Burrows actually has talked about this a number of times, in which we often run up against hard deadlines in which the board has said on multiple occasions they don't want us to do that to them. So in this attempt was actually to bring it as early as possible, to provide ample opportunity engagement, public hearing, and if the board decides, we have 2 meetings before the final has to be submitted. So the goal was actually to get ahead of the curve and not be where we've been last year. I think Mr. Burrows explicitly said he didn't want to be in this position again this year.
Okay. I think it's Mr. Murray, not Ms. Eubanks. It's, okay. Yes, Mr. Omalala.
I just wanted to comment. I reviewed the documents for the capital improvement plans for the full year from 2021 to 2026, I believe. And although we are adding new schools, and I'm so grateful that the administration has heard the cry of the community in Prince George's County. One thing that does concern me, not only for my school, specifically Parkdale, but for other schools in the county that are still standing, is the lack of school buildings they'll need. Right now, Parkdale High School, Duval High School, and many other high schools in the county that aren't sent to be rebuilt for over a decade are overcrowded. And although adding new high schools to the northern area will alleviate the overcrowdedness, it still won't alleviate the environment of the school as well as the opportunities we offer in the school. And I'll give Parkdale as an example so I can speak freely of it. Parkdale High School does not have any PVA programs because it does not have an auditorium. By adding an auditorium to Parkdale High School, not only will you be alleviating overcrowdedness before you can build the new Adelphi High School, you'll also be making sure you're adding new classrooms to Parkdale High School, because as we all know, when you build an auditorium, you also build it with additional classrooms added to it. So this is just to make you all aware that although it is great that we are building new high schools in the northern area, we still have to remember the schools that are still standing, like Parkdale, that still need an auditorium, among other things.
Thank you, colleague. Ms. Queen.
I'm sorry. I just have a question, and I don't know if this would come under the CIP process when we're talking about some of the schools, but I noticed like with Central High School, We have programs listed like cosmetology, but it's not at the school. So they are listing, and I know the residents want it. So where would that be at? Would that be in the CIP program? Because we have it listed as if the school has cosmetology and barber, and they don't have it there, but they do want it. So where would that be at? Because I'm coming for it this year.
I'll provide a response at the
Okay,
conclusion.
thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ahmed.
Oh, one more thing, colleagues. Kind of related. Okay. Every year when we approve the CIP, we approve the changes, but without seeing the entire document of what we're approving. The actual CIP budget is 350. Last year was 351 pages. That's not something that we voted on as a board after seeing that whole 351 pages. And so my concern, additionally, when it comes to CIP, is that we only review the PowerPoint and the changes that are made, but not necessarily the entire document that's being posted online and has all of our names on it as approvers. So I don't know how we can fix that, but I think that is something that needs to be addressed as well.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmed. And is it Mr. Valentine or Mr. Murray? Mr. Murray.
I promise you I'm hitting the right button. But colleagues, I have heard from the Parkdale community and the new student board member, recognizing the impact and the short term that the student board member has, and hearing from the community there over an extensive period of time. I want to further the debate about the new Parkdale auditorium along, and so colleagues, I want to move to add it to this year's CIP priority list, and I would look forward to a second for that.
Thank you. When it comes up, that's what we'll do then. Mr. Burrows. Mr. Burrows.
I just wanted, just for the edification of the board, and Ms. Williams asked me to cite the policy, is policy 9360 on page 5. It states, first readers may be subject to the presentation by the administration and discussion by members of the board. So it's board policy 9360 that gives the board the opportunity to debate first readers.
Thank you, colleague. Ms. Williams.
I don't have a comment about the CIP for this year. I just have a comment about how the CIP operates and how it represents a 5-year period, and we modify it annually. And so the modifications to the CIP on an annual basis may not affect 100% of the 300 pages. And plus, there are 2 volumes, one for the state and the county. So it's very, what I do is go through and highlight all of my schools to understand what is expected, so I can hold staff accountable and keep them on point, especially with my Potomac Landing. And also, see what is coming up and see what is being changed, because for us to review the entire process for all 269 schools, it would be a tremendous effort. So it's important that we become familiar with that book, and every year we take that book back with us and become very familiar with how it operates throughout the year. Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Murray.
Sorry, Dr. Thornton, I don't think I was clear enough during my last round. I was trying to say, I move to add Parkdale High School to this document on the CIP list.
We have a motion
Yes.
on the floor. That is it's an amendment to this motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I don't see that.
Point of
Colleagues, we're getting out of order here. I don't know. This is a first reader, and there's a motion that's being offered to modify the first reader, which is not being considered by the board. So I'm confused myself, actually. It's a first reader. Looks like, Mr. Murray, we would want to, once we come back and it's on the floor for action, you could modify it at that point.
No, but I made a motion that was on the floor. We've modified and made amendments to first readers before. I mean, it's happened in the past calendar year.
Point of clarification, sir. So
Yeah.
part of that motion would need to include a lot. For example, the cost of the school, a feasibility study, scope, schedule, budget. It's not just adding Parkdale High School. It's how much is that going to cost? And we haven't even done a feasibility study or anything related to that. So I don't know how will we actually act on that particular motion?
And so we will be adding Central High School if we add Parkdale High School. Let's get it.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Murray, Mr. Murray, are you given that information? Are you willing to withdraw that?
No, I'd still like to keep the motion on the floor.
I'm sorry?
I would still like to keep the motion on the floor.
Was there a second?
Oh, there's a second. He got a second.
Okay, we'll call the question then. We'll call the question and let the board vote on it, see what the board does.
The question was called, so.
And,
that's what the policy says.
Miss, I want to see how this vote goes. Miss Ellis, call the roll.
We are about, point of order.
Yes.
The board policy says that you can call the question, but everyone who's buzzed in has to be allowed to speak before the vote occurs. That's also in board policy.
I don't have any problems with people speaking, Mr. Burrows. You want to say something? Please speak.
Yeah. I would just strongly urge Mr. Murray and Mr. Omalola to work through the budget committee, to come to the board with you have a strong argument, but come with data and ammunition so that it'll empower your argument and will get you closer to what you're trying to do. And I would strongly urge before second reader, come to the budget committee and make the case. And I think that process would yield a stronger result than what might occur tonight.
Thank you. Is there another person willing to speak? Yes, please.
I just wanted to applaud Mr. Murray for his courageousness and bravery. On top of that, although we are discussing the process of parliamentary procedure, the issue at hand is very important. There's a lot of schools in this county that do not have auditoriums, including Parkdale. And once again, building new high schools, it will alleviate the overcrowdedness. But we still have to remember these schools are still standing, and we still have to build them and maintain them to make sure that the students who attend those schools are getting the best education possible.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ellis, call the roll, please.
Can you please
The vote
read
is
the
on
motion?
Mr. Murray's motion. Call the roll.
Ms. Ahmed, could you please read the motion?
To add Parkdale.
No. The motion is to add Parkdale High School.
The auditorium.
Yeah.
The motion is just to add Parkdale High School auditorium. Yes.
So the
Call
motion
roll,
is
please.
to approve this as a first reader
As a
with the
first reader.
addition.
No, it's just the amendment first.
Just the amendment first, that's all.
Okay.
Then we'll go to the first reader. Please, call the roll.
Ms. Ahmed?
No.
Ms. Boozer Strother?
No.
Mr. Burrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks? Mr. Montero?
No.
Mr. Murray?
Aye.
Mr. Omalola?
Aye.
Ms. Queen?
Wow. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to say no because Parkdale High School
Just a moment, Ms.
needs more
Queen.
than an
Just your
auditorium.
vote. Please continue to call the roll.
Mrs. Shepherd?
No.
Mr. Thomas?
As the board member representing Parkdale, yes.
Mr. Valentine? Mr. Wallace?
Pass.
Mrs. Williams?
No.
Dr. Thornton?
No.
Mr. Wallace?
Abstain.
What's the vote, Ms. Ellis?
9 ayes, 4 ayes. and
9
one-
noes,
Yeah, I said nays.
9 noes.
9 noes,
Okay, thank you.
4 ayes, and 1 ayes.
Colleagues, please, let's go back to the main motion, please. Those in favor of the passage of the first reader, please say aye. Those opposing, no.
No.
Who said no?
I
That
said
was
no.
one, Ms. Ahmed. Colleagues, we'll now have a motion to approve items, action taken in executive session. Regarding legal matters, student appeals, personnel appointments, chief executive officer report, administrative matters, internal audit, personnel matters. A motion is in order. Some proper movements and seconded that the board approves action taken in executive session on August 22nd, 2019. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. A motion to adjourn is in order. Proper moved and seconded. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. Thank you very much.